Hi Rahul, good evening.
Good evening, Narsi. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for being here. Pleasure. Well, Rahul Mathew is the head of data and technology for Illumine Industries. That's a very fast-growing startup based out of Chennai in India, and they do a lot of design and engineering services for verticals like solar, electric vehicles, green buildings, etc. It's a pleasure to have him with us. And Rahul, today when over the next 10-15 minutes, I would like to have a specific topic discussed with you.
All right.
And that's going to be relevant to many fast-growing startups like yours, and that has got to do with talent.
Right.
And more specifically, how do you retain talent without having to only resort to monetary measures?
Understood.
So that's what it is. Thank you very much once again.
Pleasure,
but before we start off, I would like you to maybe tell our audience something about Illumine Industries and perhaps a bit about what you do. Is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Thank you, Narsi. Thank you for having me here. So Illumine Industries, as we know, so we are an engineering firm at the heart of it, but at the heart of it, we pretty much go into sustainability. So we are, again, as you called out, we are an engineering firm dealing in pretty much solar engineering, construction engineering, green buildings and energy efficient buildings to name. And we help build a sustainable world, right? And my role as head of data intelligence and technology, what I do is I'm happy to enable our leaders in our organization to take insightful decisions through data analytics, or giving them insights into what their teams are doing, what their processes are doing, and even the large landscape in which we operate. And everybody, so to sum it up, all of us here in Illumine, we work towards one common goal, and that's enabling builders.
Wonderful. I know a bit about what you guys do, and I also know that the domains you are working in requires fairly good skill sets in focused areas. So can you tell us something about what kind of talent you require for both your core operations and your support operations?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, being true to the nature of the company, I should say around engineers kind of skew the graph a bit, or more rather, right? 80 to 85% of our workforce are engineers, and that's because our work demands it, the nature of work demands it and dictates it. But other than that, if you look at the rest of the workforce, we have people in diverse backgrounds like finance, arts and science, architecture, and even psychology. So we have few people who are from psychology as well, and they kind of comprise not just the support functions like finance or HR, but also in core engineering fields. We've had some people coming in and actually doing much better than their engineering peers. And we do have a lot of people, freshers, especially in the power engineering space, because the kind of skill sets, as you called out, like we need a very specific set of skill sets, and the kind of skill sets that we look for is unfortunately not available, or we can't pick them off the shelf in the Indian market. So what we do is we do have a lot of freshers coming in every year. So we hire them, and then they go through an extensive training where they are made up to market standards, and that's something which we are very proud about. And I think the average age of our company is around 24, 25, and me being all of 35, I think I'm one of the oldest, or if not the oldest in the company. So yeah, I think that's
I'm glad I'm not in your company. I should be calling myself a fossil, going by the kind of average ages you're talking about. Let me quickly zoom into some of the things you said. You pick up youngsters, but bright youngsters, you put them through a lot of training, and you develop this talent.
Right.
Now, that brings me to the core of the discussion that I want to have with you. So these are going to be very good, talented guys over a period of time, and well, the world is full of opportunities.
Definitely.
Yeah. But before I go on with that, when we look at retaining such talent, most of the companies speak about, we have a great culture,
right,
to retain this talent. And I'm sure they do. But many times it's not very clear to me what are the components of the culture. Because many times we do keep hearing about even the guys like Google saying free food and stuff like that. Now, maybe that's part of culture, but culture, I think, goes far beyond that.
Right.
So I'd like to know from you guys, broadly, what are the components of culture you look at for the company as a whole, and especially when it comes to retaining talent?
No, I mean, great question. I think culture has been like the go-to buzzword these days for each and every organization. I think, I mean, according to me, if you ask, culture is pretty much a culmination of, what all the values that the organization stands for. Because again, if you look at the textbook dictionary or textbook definition of culture, it says it's just the roles or the particular activities, right, that a specific set of people used to do, right? And that's when you move it into an organizational standpoint, it becomes organizational culture, right?
Sure.
To put things in context, when I started my work way back in 2010, that was when I entered the workforce. People used to talk about, every company used to talk about organization values. These are values that we hold on to, and they had all acronyms and whatever for it. But today I see that now it's become culture, right? That's slowly evolved into, now I don't see companies talking about values, but the more around, we have a great culture, we have a culture that fosters growth and all of that. So if you look at it, what I believe in is that, let's say an organization has 3 or 4 values that they hold on to, and when the senior leaders or the leaders in the company, and as well as everybody in the organization, start focusing or standing by those organizational values, I think that starts building a culture where everyone who comes in wants to now start adding on to it. Like here at Illumine, we have something called 3 I's as our values, which is integrity, innovation, and intimacy. Right? When I say intimacy, it's more around collaboration, having empathy towards each other, ensuring we respect each other and all of that. And when we as leaders start showcasing that, right, and then our culture is also like, when we talk about our culture, we also say, that's what we try to put out, right? Saying we have a culture where we always innovate. We want people to come up with new ideas. We want people to be full of integrity. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we also look at.
Let me stop you here for a moment. The 3 I's you defined, they're all definitely sounding very positive to me. But how do these translate? You see, be it integrity or intimacy, how does this translate, and how do you consistently make sure that you are able to apply these cultural parameters?
Right. So one thing is, how do you apply is one thing. Again, as I called it, right? It's about how as leaders, we need to start showing. It could be a very small thing. It could be a small, a meeting where, let's say, your team member comes to you and is talking about a problem where they're not been able to solve it. And if you're able to think out of the box and maybe give them just a hint of, what, do you want to try this? It's as simple as that, as simple as following what we talk. It's about, as I say, right, practice what you preach. So it's about doing that, and over a period of time, what happens is everybody who starts looking at it starts emulating the leader, and that kind of keeps following. And that, I feel, is what is today we what we've called it, or what we've made it as an organizational culture. Right. So
in a way, what you're saying is you are able to sustain the application of these cultural parameters through the top management, the leaders continuously practicing them.
Definitely.
And these practices and these continuous habits will act as role models for others who watch them, observe them, and hopefully over a period of time the others will adopt them as well.
Right, exactly. And then keep reiterating and re-emphasizing on the need to have or stick to these things. Again, to another thing, I wouldn't say there's any one big trait or one aspect of culture that oversees anything. But to be honest, every company needs to focus on integrity, because I believe a person with integrity is a person who's content, and because he's content, he's happy, and being happy, obviously he'll end up being more productive. So maybe integrity should be there in every company, but otherwise culture is more around what we built with the values that we hold on to.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's probably a pretty practical way to do it. Define a few key anchors such as integrity or intimacy, and then the leaders try to make sure that they adhere to these as many times as possible.
Definitely.
It's practical, it's doable, and I'm glad about it. One other question, say how much ever you do, how best you try to apply these cultural practices. The world is a large place, right? India is a large place, very competitive place, and there are going to be equally smart companies like yours, which means the talent over here are going to get other opportunities. Equally good opportunities, sometimes better opportunities.
Right.
What happens when good talent comes to you and says, Rahul, look, I love working here, but I got a better job. I want to move on. Yeah. What do you guys try to do? I mean, do you guys try to, obviously you want to keep him back, right? Now, monetary is one way of doing it, but as I said, I don't want to focus on monetary. That's the easy thing to do.
Right.
Beyond monetary, whatever you guys try to do there, beyond that, how do you try to use the non-monetary levers? Would you try to put him in a better job position, or would you want to take some time to communicate with him, or have a detailed communication with him to see how what he does can be better? What are the levers you would try to use, the non-monetary levers as I call them, when a good talent wants to move on?
I mean, I think that's
not an easy question, I know.
Yes, I mean that's an area which we also at times struggle, right? Because again, at the end of it, we are all humans. But again, for me, if as a company we start looking at, let's say even for that matter, non-monetary things like giving him a job role, right, or different role, maybe a conversation, or maybe it's something else to do after this person has come in and said, his willingness to leave. I think as leaders we've failed, because according to me, as a leader, I think the only solution to this is to be proactive, have transparent dialogues with our associates or our team members to understand what is it that they want, right? Because nobody would leave a company just like that. It happens. It is not a moment of time decision. Maybe at the lower ends of it might happen, but then somebody who you consider top talent, right?
It is rarely instantaneous.
Right. It's not just like that, right? So he's thought through it. He or she has thought through it a lot. So I think it happens over a period of time, and as leaders, if we are able to have that transparent dialogues with them to understand what is it that they want, what is it they like doing, right? And be able to give them that. Like for example, let's say somebody, you give him a role change, but even when he comes in with an offer or saying I'm moving out, but if you could have done it before he left or before he even initiated offer of employment outside, I think that's where we can call ourselves as leaders who've been able to lead our teams to success, right? And
so basically being proactive and preventive rather than trying to stop it after it's happened.
Right. I think it's about giving them that clarity that these are things that you can do here. For example, I've been in Illumine for the last 2.5 years, 3 years, and in as many years this is my third role, right? And it's come out of my own, again, proactive communication with me, having with Nitish or Sudarshan, the leaders in the organization, to understand what is it that I want to try doing, and they've been very open to kind of let me experiment and try it out, which I think is something which we'll have to start looking at, rather than wait for people to put down papers and say, okay, what now I'll try to compensate you. It kind of also undermines them or undermines their value, because you've not maybe spent that time trying to understand him before, and now they suddenly turn out or look like they are very resourceful. So
just going back to the question on cultural components, it will be good for many of our audience to also know, I know that you guys have been actually trying to innovate on quite a few of these components, but it will be nice if we can also maybe tell them a couple of examples, other examples you can recollect where you have seen these cultural codes or the positive cultures in action.
Yeah, I mean definitely. For example, one is innovation, right? Because we've thrived on innovation, because being a startup or having been here only for around 8 years now, I think innovation is something which has kept us going and keep increasing. One of our biggest division, which is the power engineering division, was what we started off with as a company that kept growing. But the next big division that came up, which is the construction engineering, was actually an idea that was born out of a internal platform that we have called Project ORB3, where we have employees come up and pitch ideas to the management and see if we can potentially make that into a new business. So today construction engineering has been there for the last 2.5 years. They're profitable.
And this was born out of an idea
exactly
from an employee. Because you had a platform where they could actually voice their thoughts and ideas.
Yes, and it was not the directors or the MDs who brought out the idea, but a new employee who came in and thought, this is something we can try. And similarly, we had an example last year where that's now our sister concern called Lego, which is an EV mobility service which we've started in alignment with the Chennai Metro Rail Limited, which again was an idea from one of our very new, I think that employee had joined, and in just 6 months he had an idea and he pitched it, and they were willing to explore it, and today that's a fully fledged business that's thriving on its own. I think what these do is, these kind of things reiterate the whole concept of, okay, if I have an idea, they are willing, or there is a possibility that it could become the next big thing here. So this again reiterates the fact that, we stick by our values, and that again fosters a culture of innovation.
Very interesting. And one last question to you, in this connected world of today, even people who have moved on are still accessible to you.
Right.
The talent in some form or the other is accessible to you. The expertise in some form or the other is accessible to you. So two parts to the question. One is, are you guys trying to also see how we can formally, informally utilize the talent wherever they are for a win-win?
Right.
And secondly, what is your message to all the guys who have worked with you so far but are elsewhere today?
Again, taking your question as well and answering it in two parts. One, are we doing anything right now? I think formally, informally, we have a lot of cases where we've had employees come back. They've left us for whatsoever reason, but then 6 months, 8 months down the line.
That's probably because you kept in touch in some form.
Exactly. Yeah. And we were open when they said, we want to come back. We were like, okay, fine, let's come and let's explore something. And that's, people who've, let's say, gone into the local market and come back. But then we also had a couple of employees who've quit their jobs just to do their masters abroad, right? And we have a couple of examples there. One is Dan, who left to Canada to do his masters, and after his masters today he's again joined Illumine. Now he's working in the US market for us, and he's kind of taking care of market acquisition and things like that. So it again reiterates the fact that it's very important to keep in touch and see how is it you can leverage them, how is it that you can help build that connection and see where is that you grow as an organization. And maybe touching on the second part of that, yes, there are a lot of people that we worked with, right? I mean, be it this company, be it my earlier company, it's all connections and connections that have today become a vital part of our lives, right?
What's your message to them?
Yeah, I think it's very important to keep in touch with them, one, because you never know when there's an opportunity to build a synergy. Maybe not build synergy for them and you, but maybe build synergy between two of your connections that you maybe mutually know, right? And that could kind of spark off something great. But one message, if that is just one message that I want to put it out there, it's that, be willing to take that leap of faith. I think being calculative is good. Being calculative enough is very good as a trait. But I think a leap of faith, having that courage to take that sporadic leap of faith now and then, be it a new job that you've got, be it a new geography that you want to explore, or rather even investing in a candidate when you think that candidate can maybe do the job that you want but has no experience to back it up. Just take that leap of faith and see if, and again, as leaders, I think we are bound to also face the consequences or take decisions and see how that turns out to be. If it doesn't turn out well, then again, as leaders, we'll have to figure out a way to get that sorted out as well. But that's one thing which I say, and again, as there's a famous quote, right? If you want something that you never got, I think you got to try something that you've never done. So
that's interesting.
I think that's something which we'll have to do. So be open to that leap of faith.
Yeah, take risks. It's worth it.
Definitely.
Hey, thank you very much. Very nice talking to you. I'm sure many of what we discussed here will be of interest to other startups like yours.
Right.
Both startups that are already successful and startups which are just starting to become successful.
Right.
And I wish all of you guys an even faster growth than what you had in the last 5 years. Thank you very much, Rahul. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.